the visitation is severely restricted in solitary, right? Now, I mean, is it possible to visit a prisoner if you don't know them, as a charitable thing?
You really have to know somebody's name and DIN number in order to see them. But I don't know if anybody that's ever gotten kind of an anonymous visitor, but I mean, it's all public information on the DOC's website, but usually you can contact the chaplains and they arrange for visitations if you want to go do something like that.
Okay, so
I have heard of people writing letters and corresponding with people in solitary. I think the social justice, were they doing some of that, or I can't remember where I heard it, and I also wanted to throw out another great resource, which is a website called Solitary Watch, which is run by a journalist named James Ridgway, and really collects everything relating to solitary confinement nowadays.
okay, you were second, I believe, not you, the person I was.
Yeah, I was wondering if someone could answer because.
Could you speak loudly?
Oh, well, the Correctional Association does the state and does some kind of oversight of what's going on. The city doesn't have any oversight on what they do. But one of the things that struck me is the guards have all this discretion. So despite what the rules are, they can say, as we know from the police, you hit me, you did this, you did something violent when you didn't. This happens all the time in the streets, right? So what kind of oversight can be given in the recruitment of guards? I went online and there are these videos that you think they're recruiting for the military. That you are coming in to be empowered against an enemy that you will learn to have them submit to you, and you will get paid really well for doing it. I mean, those are the kinds of videos. If you go online and look at these things, it is scary. So how can you, I mean, there's the legislation, there's the city council, which people are working on, but how do you get oversight over this recruitment process, or at least put a spotlight on it so people understand who they're pulling in and what damage happens as a result of that?
I don't exactly know the answer to that, but I was just going to add that there is research showing that the effects of solitary confinement on the prison staff and the prison guards is also deleterious and affects their mental health as well as the mental health of the prisoners because of what they're compelled to do and the ways they're compelled to treat prisoners.
Okay, let's take more questions. What I'm going to do is sort of gather up some questions, and Jack and anybody here who can answer, please do so. Yes, sir. And then, good. Oh no, I'm sorry. The woman, this woman was for. Yeah, please. Loudly, loudly.
Yeah, I've just been reading this book, and I think she spoke at this church when I looked up how to find the church. I think Michelle Alexander's book and Miss Jim Crow, because it just happens. I'm reading that right now, and it's all everything she says. It fits right into targeting the black man, starting in the 80s and the so-called war on drugs, and it's unbelievable. And then the solitary confinement stuff is, and I'm thinking, I mean, she has at the end what to do about it. I haven't quite finished yet, but what seems to be what might be very effective in light of this is the recruiting, appealing to people who have been through this to come forward, not only to help them, see what we can do to set up support networks to help them in any way they need help. And also, that way we could be helping them, and also we can find people who will be prepared to go out and help organize against it, because there might be some people who would like to, and I think it would strengthen the people who've been through it, to know people would help them, and it would help us reach more people, because we have real information that is undeniable.
Okay, thank you. If you haven't read the new Jim Crow, it's a very good book to read, if not an essential book. Yes, sir.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing your story also, brother and sister. My question is, I know that the communications management units have have a disproportionate, a massive number of Muslims in them, but I was wondering more broadly what percentage, if there are numbers about how many people in solitary right now are political prisoners, whether that be actually even pre-war on drugs, Black liberation movement, right up to Muslims today. I don't know if you guys have anything on that.
I don't know figures on the control management units, because we've been focusing mostly at the state level and some at the city level. So I don't know if there's anyone else in the audience who's done more with the control management units.
I can't answer this question, but precisely. But the whole question of political prisoners or prisoners of conscience is something that the society as a whole needs to think about, and perhaps a consensus would be possible to achieve in terms of changing legislation. Just to pick up on what you said, Muslim prisoners, yes, especially since 9/11, but there are other kinds of political prisoners too. Dissent is a rare occurrence in our society without penalty. That's right. Is there somebody else? Yes, ma'am.
There's one question that hasn't come up, and I always worry about it, and that is something called the prison industrial complex, in which every community that has a prison suddenly becomes quite well-to-do, because that community is employed by the prison. And there is nothing they want to do to eliminate prisons. And the more prisons, the more people who are employed as prison guards, whatever they need there. And I think this has to be factored into talk about prison in general, or this subject in particular, because this is a specifically horrible part of prison work, it seems to me. I mean, to take a person and dehumanize them in that way. And we're hearing about people who have been in solitary for years. It seems to me that if you're punishing a person for an infraction, most of them are pretty minor, I would imagine. You don't need to take that person's mind. Of course, they should have a few days.
Well, we're now talking about the prison industrial complex. I'm hearing prison industrial complex, I'm hearing political prisoners. Is there someone else who has a question, and we can throw it out to Jack or anyone else who wants to ask? Yes, sir.
Each one of the panelists might have some notion of where the resistance to change exists because of the large political, bureaucratic thing like the prison system. There are places in which policy is actually made and people that actually make those decisions. And I wonder if there's value in identifying them specifically so we know at what echelon is happening or which individuals are responsible for what seems to be kind of an out of control policy.
The microphone.
I know that at one point, when I was on Rikers, we used to hear about the correction officers' unions. The unions didn't want prisons to close. And upstate New York, where you have all your prisons, that's the cottage industry of prisons. So there's always been a fight to avoid closing any prisons upstate. However, the prisons have been closed and under duress. It's a money saving, value now. But I think that's a big part of it. What you mentioned about the industrial complex is true. And some of those communities are functioning and doing very well. However, there is one prisons upstate, once a town, that is trying to do something about it. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the town, but they have said is they no longer want the prison, but they want now to revert back to what they had been doing years gone by, which is to have milk products, to get dairy farms going again, and get milk products, yogurt, ice cream, to be sold in the city. I don't know if anyone has come across that.
It's milk, not jail.
Right, that's the one. Milk, not jails. Do you know what town or city that is from here?
I don't
It's
recall
upstate.
the particular town, but they definitely have it.
They have a
What's it?
website.
Kobani and several other yogurt is now being manufactured instead of the prison.
Does the move away from solitary confinement imply closing the prisons? I didn't know that.
No.
No, one of the things that, for myself, that I found was when I came home and I was on parole, I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to vote. However, when I was incarcerated, I was included in the census, which contributes to how much money is allocated to certain counties. If your population has a prison that's got, 6,000 people, that's 6,000 more people that live there, even though 6,000 of them don't have a say in anything that goes on in that county. So that was something that's a little disconcerting, and now I have everything reinstated, so I'm not talking. But to answer your question, I think about who to speak to, Brian Fisher actually responds to emails from inmates, but he is the commissioner, is his title, for New York State, and kind of trickles down from him. He's somebody that he did respond for the women. I don't want to say he fought for certain things, but he did change certain things. So to me, he was somebody who was open to listening, which was huge compared to what it used to be. So it kind of starts at the top with that in terms of getting names. You can go on the DOC's websites to write. The superintendents of the prisons doesn't really do much. Somebody else opens their letters. Anyway, but one of the things that I think is huge is for people to try and write in for programs, because programs really do make a difference. It's I don't want to say it's idle time, but to get people who are in situations that other people in the room are in the same situation as them because of their past actions, programming is huge, which is why solitary confinement to me is such a detriment, because you have people that are there for a variety of reasons, and there's no outlet to say, how did we all get here? You'll have to figure it out on your own. But I would start with Brian Fisher and go from there. And there's certain assemblymen that I know are women at this point too, that we were given actually through the Correctional Association, their names and addresses. And also organizations like the Correctional Association, and to also push Brian Fisher to allow them to really talk to the inmates, because I know sometimes when they would come visit, we were kept away, and only certain populations allowed to speak to them. So I would start from there. That would be my recommendation.
I think I can try to quickly answer several of the questions just quickly. The first question about in New York City. There is a separate group called the Board of Correction. Now that's a semi-governmental agency. They have standards. It's not the best, but that's an opportunity that does some oversight. However, the pushback that's going on there is a group called the Jail Action Coalition, or JAC. That's the organization that you should try to reach out there, really trying to make a very affirmative case in several different areas, but including solitary confinement. Second question was about New Jim Crow, a very important book. I urge it on several people. Most of the prisons that we go to, 95% of the staff are white, and 70 to 80% of the individuals are people of color. Also, not only are they white, but they're generally from rural upstate communities, and yet they're overseeing individuals that come from an urban environment. And finally, their experience with people of color is almost only in the prison. How do you expect them to have kind of the racial sensitivity, the ability to relate? And they don't. And when you challenge them on, do you think race is ever an issue? They say, of course not, when it actually permeates the whole system. Question about political prisoners. I don't know anybody that keeps any data on that. What I would say is, particularly in New York, older prisoners that were very politically active, that really goes to the Black Power movement, that goes to several different organizations like that. They have been suppressed. We have some people working for us that did long times actually in the box, or they were sent way far up to disempower them. Because prison is about disempowerment, ultimately. Control. They say care, custody, and control. It's control and care and custody. Well, care particularly is the small C, where control is the big C. And it's all of their methods are about control. If you don't see race in the criminal justice system, you're missing the whole story. Your question about where is the action? Brian Fincher, well, actually, he's going to be there on Monday at 2 o'clock, and John Jay. Actually, and so is Commissioner Shiro, because that's the New York City. It's the first time I've ever seen the two of them together. We don't know what's going to go on, but he did say very recently that starting this summer, and I think in reaction to the NYCLU report, is they are reviewing people who are in solitary confinement. We have to hold them accountable. I do not believe he is the force that is against change, but he's also not a force of change. Who do you have to go to? Well, you have to start with the governor, because ultimately the governor is responsible. Second, there are many legislators that are very interested in the Assembly. Jeff Aubrey, who's the chair of the Corrections Committee. In the Senate, you have Senator Montgomery. Celebras were actually just in Senator Perkins' office 4 hours ago talking about it. He's very concerned. There are individuals that you can go to that really want to listen to the problem.
I think we're about the end of our time. I would like everybody sort of to stand up and give panelists and Jack